Hello viewers, today we're going to continue with the assembly of the S54. In the previous video we have installed the crankshaft, and now we're going to continue with the installation of the Conrods and the pistons. So let me show you quickly where am I. Okay, so here are the 6 pistons which we're going to use. This is the original pistons which I have removed from the engine. I just cleaned them up, and especially the most important thing when cleaning up the pistons, it's not so important to clean up so good the piston crowns. The most important thing is of course to clean up the piston ring grooves, so you need to be able to move freely the piston rings inside the grooves of the piston crown. And the other thing which is really important, if you are reusing your old piston rings, which I'm going to do also, is to clean as good as possible the oil piston ring, which is the last one here. So I believe I clean it as good as possible through the whole 6 pistons. I think I'm ready to start reassembling them back in the engine. But before that, let's talk a little bit about the bolts which we are going to use. So I bought this engine from a car which I thought is 04 year of production, which means 2004. And for these cars and these engines especially, they should come out with the newer type of Conrods. Okay, just to quickly show you directly the bulletin which I'm talking about. So I'm with this engine, S54 engine, produced from February of 12 201 to May of 25 to 203. So this is the bulletin, and let me show you something else. Connection rod bearing replacement. So this is not for the Conrods itself, it's only for the bearings. But doesn't matter, BMW in the newer engines from 203 are replacing the Conrods in production wise, not when they get the car in the shop and to do this bulletin. They are changing only the bearings then. Newer engines from 2003, the Conrods are using M10 bolt, and right now I'm going to of course remove one of the bolts to show you, but this bolt is M11. And once again, the car which I bought this engine was 2004, and I was kind of surprised when I started removing the pistons and the Conrods, and especially when I saw this type of bolt, because the newer type of bolt is with a Torx type of head, and this one is 12-point bolt, as you can see. And once again, this is M11, not M10 like on the newer type of Conrods. So I was kind of surprised, but doesn't matter. In the end of the day, it turns out that the engine which was sent to me, it was not originally installed in this car from the manufacturer. So previously probably someone have changed this engine and they have swapped other type of engine. We're going to live with this. We're going to run with these Conrods. It's not big of a deal, but the biggest minus is that BMW is not producing anymore these types of bolts. So if you want to change the bolts, you are not going to be able, because BMW are not selling those. BMW is selling only the new type of bolts. I'm going to remove one of it to show you how they look like. This is the M10 bolt, the Torx head type, but the other type of them, they are not selling them. And in the service manual they are saying if you remove these bolts, they are reusable, but they are not saying how many times you can reuse them. And if you don't know, it's kind of hard to know how many times they have been reused. So BMW is claiming that you can remove them and install them, but the most important thing is to install them in the same place that you have removed them. Let's say if this bolt is installed on the exhaust side, you need to install them once again on the exhaust side. You cannot mix them or interchange them. You should install them correctly in the same thread from which you have removed the bolt, which is kind of tricky. That's why I decided, as you probably saw guys, to buy ARP bolts, which is the direct replacement of this 12 socket bolt, which actually ARP is using 12-point head bolt also. We're going to see what is the torque spec for this, but actually we are not going to use the torque spec. We're just going to do a comparison between the recommended torque spec from ARP and the proper way to torque these bolts, but I'm going to show you how a little bit later in the video. This is the bolt which I have removed from the Conrods. This was originally installed in the engine. This is the M11 bolt with the 12-point socket head, and this is the newer type, which is the Torx type head, and is M10. So this is for the newer type of Conrods. and still I haven't found any information, doesn't matter how hard I have searched, between the difference of the Conrods. Is the M11 or M12 Conrod better or worse? There is no information about this. BMW is only claiming that on the other type of Conrods which the engine came out with, they have installed bad quality of Conrod bearings. That's why they are recalling and doing this bulletin to change the Conrod bearings, because the engine can seize up because of a failed Conrod bearing. I believe they have done it because they have installed a Conrod bearings with a really small clearance and with a high revving engine. This can cause some issues pretty fast. That's why we're going to do something about this, but once again a little bit later in the video. So just want to show the difference between the both bolts. Yeah, you cannot use this bolt on the other type of Conrods. You can use only this type. That's why I have bought ARP, because I want to change the bolts. I don't want to reuse the old ones, because I don't know how many times this bolt have been reused. So I'm not going to risk it, and that's why I'm going to use the ARP bolts. If BMW was selling this separately, I was going to buy the OEM ones, because I'm not going to go turbocharge or something like this with this engine. So the OEM bolt is going to be good enough. If you have these bolts, I recommend to buy them new. OEM one, you don't need the ARP ones. If you are going naturally aspired, there is no point. These bolts are really good quality, and the torque spec for this is really interesting, but because we are not going to use them, I'm not going to include it in the video. You can see it in the manual. And the main thing which we're going to use to do today, is it safe to use the ARP bolts? By that I mean, I'm going to tighten up one of the Conrods with the original bolts, with the torque spec which BMW is providing. I'm going to remove the bearings, and I'm going to tighten it up out of the engine on a vise, and I'm going to measure what is the diameter, exact diameter of the Conrod hole where the big end bearing is sitting. And after that we're going to remove them, and we're going to install the ARP ones, and we're going to do once again the measurement, and we're going to see, do we have any distortion in the hole when we are using the ARP ones. Because as probably you guys going to know, ARP is saying that they are providing much more clamping force, which means we can have some minor distortion in the hole of the Conrod, which can cause us some issues bearing wise. It can prematurely wear the bearing if we have this. And of course, if everything's okay, still we're going to do a plastic gauge measurement in the end to see what is the exact clearance on the crankshaft. But let's first start with this test. And yeah, I need to dig out the engine from the engine graveyard. I don't know how many engines we have here, but I need to assemble them one day. This is M62, this is the M54, and this is the S54. And all the parts, yeah, of course there are no all the parts, but yeah, we are doing a project with this M62. We are going to install it in the E36, which is going to be interesting series for you guys. Of course, it's going to be really interesting to see what is going to be the difference between an E36 with M62 versus E36 with S54. It's going to be a really interesting test to see. It's going to be a drag-wise test, of course, but we're going to see what is going to be the difference. I'm going to use this aluminum jaws on my vise, so to be able to hold the Conrod in place when I torquing it. So for the first measurement, I'm going to use the original bolts. I know there is a special vices for this job, but I don't have it. Everything seems fine. Before that, I'm going to lube up the bolts. So I'm going to put on the threads and on the head. Okay, like that. The first torque spec is 5 Nm. This is just for setting up the cap on the Conrod, that's why it's so small. Okay, 5. The next one is 30 Nm. Okay, this is 30. And now the last stage is 70 degrees. Hopefully the vise is going to hold the aluminum part of it, of course. So 70 degrees. Okay. Hopefully you guys are seeing because my hand is on camera. Okay, so the bolts are torqued to spec, and now I'm going to measure the bore in the Conrod, and we're going to see what is the exact diameter. Right now should be 53 millimeters exactly. Okay, I have set up my bore gauge indicator to 53 millimeters, and let's see what is going to be the exact diameter inside the big end bearing bore. So here is 53.005, so pretty dead on the money. Okay, it's going to be a little bit easier. 53.01. Let's try like that. 53.01 once again. I'm going to try to show you guys. Once again, the gauge is set it up for exactly 53 millimeters, so I'm just going to place it like here, like that, and let me show you. The zero mark is exactly 53 millimeters, and we are at the first pointer or something like that. So this means this here is 53.01, and if I rotate it like that. Once again, pretty close to that, even 0.05, so it's in the middle. 0.005, sorry about this. So now, because I'm not planning to use these bolts, I'm going to remove them. I'm going to degrease the threads once again, and we're going to try the same test, but this time with the ARP bolts. So give me a second, guys, and we're going to redo the test. Okay, so for the ARP bolts, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to torque them to spec, because yeah, ARP is providing exact torque spec which you can use, but in a perfect world you're going to want to torque these bolts using this. So this is a stretch gauge indicator which is going to show you exactly how much the bolt have been stretched, and ARP is providing when you should stop torquing these bolts down, how much the bolt should stretch out. So we're going to see that in their website. I'm going to show you after a second how to find it. Most of people don't have this, and they just torque them with the recommended torque spec from ARP, but most of the time this is not exactly right, because there are a lot of conditions which you need to meet so to have the maximum clamp force provided from this bolt. That is why this is the most accurate way to torque a bolt like this, with a stretch gauge indicator. And yeah, this once again is from ARP. If you want to buy something like this is the number which you can find it. Yeah, this is the number of the two. I'm in the ARP website, so I'm going to type this part number, kit part number, or I am not sure exactly which is here. I have already tried, so I'm going to type up this number here. So as you can see, I have already searched it. So yeah, actually it's a must to type this line, or I don't know how this is called, because if you don't type this spacing here, you are not going to find it. So you need to type this line. And we're going to see exactly our kit, which is, as we can see, S54 3.2 M11, which is ours. And we're going to go in kit instructions. Let's see what we're going to have here. So 70 lbs, I'm not sure how much it was this. Let me check. 70 lbs to Newton meters. Okay, how much is this? 95 Newton meters. So this is the torque spec which ARP is suggesting. And yeah, of course we should use the ultra torque fastener assembly loop which they provide. Probably it's not going to be enough because we're going to need to check with the plastic gauge all of the clearances after that, but I have additional from other fasteners that I have. This is the recommended torque spec if you don't have a stretch gauge indicator. But as we can see here what is saying, ARP recommending using the stretch method when tightening rod bolts. Following the instruction for using the stretch gauge, stretching the bolts to 0075 to 0080. This is in inches, and conveniently enough the gauge is in inches also, so it's going to be a little bit easier to follow these recommendations. So I'm going to start torquing the bolt with a torque wrench, and we're going to see at which point we're going to get so much stretching of the bolt. We're going to see how close ARP are with this statement here. So let's give it a try. Actually, I'm kind of surprised. This is not my first kit from ARP, but as you can see, these instructions were underneath the fastener paste, so it was underneath here. And as you can see, we have the same suggestions, 70 lbs, or I don't know how to call it. And this is the stretch, how much the bolt should stretch before we stop torquing it. But I didn't saw it, sorry about this. But if you don't have it, you saw how you can search it in their website. So yeah, I have removed 2 bolts, and I'm going to put the paste, the lubricant, on the threads and on the head once again, as I loop the original bolts, and we're going to start torquing them. Okay, so I have degreased the threads as I told you. The thing which ARP is saying that these bolts can be reused many times and you should change them when they stretch up. But how are you going to know that they have stretched up? You cannot know exactly what is the exact size of average bolt. They are not the same length. I have measured them and all of them have different length. I'm not going to make a list average bolt what length it has. So I don't know, guys. Maybe if you use them several times you need to change them, but I cannot say exactly how many times you need to do it. If they are the same length, then you can measure it when they're going to get stretched, but when they are different lengths it's kind of hard. Okay, so let me show you. So as we can see right now we are exactly at 0 on this bolt, but if you go on the other side, yeah, here is the other bolt and it is with 0.0, how much was this? 0.003 inches bigger than the other one. So you need to take this in mind when doing this job, because it can kind of deceive you. Okay, so once again we are exactly at 0. You guys seeing? Yeah, exactly at 0. So let's see 40 Newton meters what it's going to do to the bolts. So this is 40. Okay, stretched up a little bit. So how much? 1, 2, around 0.003. So we are almost at the middle. Yeah, the other one is almost stretched out the same. So let's continue. I'm going to try with 60. So 60. Let's see where we at. So we are getting closer to 5. So let's continue. Now 80. As we saw, the recommended was 90 something, so 80 should be still safe. But the aluminum vise is not happy with this. hopefully it's going to hold. So let's see with 80. Okay, we are at 6.5, 0.00665, and the recommended was between 75 and 80, so it needs a little bit more. So yeah, we are at around 60. Let me see the other one. Yeah, pretty much the same. So I'm going to try 85. Let's see how it goes with 85. It didn't move. The other one moved a little bit. Let's continue with 90. With 90 didn't move also. Probably it's going to require 90 something for sure. Yeah, still at 6.5. Let's try 95. This is pretty much the spec which ARP is providing. Still didn't move. I don't know this boat, guys. I doubt we're going to be able to move it to the stretch which they want. Let's try 100. Okay, now moved a little bit. So we are at 7. Probably it's going to require a little bit more because the spec was between 75 and 80, so we need to move it a little bit more. So let's try 105. I cannot make it click, but I think we are exactly at point. So yeah, as you can see, we are exactly at 0.0075. This boat is exactly torqued as it should be, but the other one I'm going to rotate the Conrod because I don't have access with the stretch gauge to see what's happening with it. So I'm going to rotate it like that. So let's see, it was with little bit different reading. So we are exactly right now at 0.009, but as we remember, we have started from 003, so it should go to around 0011, 10.5. So let's give it a try. I'm going to reduce to 100. Okay, this is 100. And it moves, how much is this? 9.5. So it needs a little bit more. So once again, let's try 103. This time. Oops. So it needs just a smidge more. So 105. I don't feel the movement. So I'm going to do it like that because I don't want to risk it. We are getting a little bit out of hand. In the engine we're going to try it once again, but right now is torque with stretch of 0.007. The recommended was 0.0075, so it's good enough, I believe. Okay guys, I'm going to try to do it once again with one hand. So with the ARP bolts, once again the bore gauge indicator is set to 53 millimeters, 53 millimeters, sorry, with these millimeters. So we're dead on the water. It's even better than the OEM bolts. So I'm going to rotate it like so. Yeah, it's a little bit shady, but exactly at point. So let me rotate it like that. Hopefully you guys going to see. actually where I'm at. Oh, okay, as you can see, I'm hitting the edge of the cap with one of the wheels of the bore gauge indicator, so I'm going to need to rotate it a little bit more. Oops. It's kind of hard to do it with one hand. So I'm going to try it like that. As you can see, the wheel is out of the crack of the cap. So let me try to show you guys. Where we at? Pretty close, even better than the OEM bolts. It was really interesting to see what's going to be the difference, and I'm really pleased with the result. With these bolts, for sure, it should be safe because the diameter is exactly as it should be, 53 millimeters everywhere, without any distortions or something like this. So pretty pleased with the result. Okay, now I know it's getting boring, but we should continue. Now I'm going to remove the bolts once again. Yeah, let me show you what we're going to do with the bearings. This is the bearings, the original ones, which I have removed from the car. And yeah, I'm not going to reuse this, not like the main bearings. For sure I'm not going to reuse them. Actually, let me see, are the original ones? Yeah, probably they have been changed. That's why I'm saying about these bolts, because I don't know how many times these bolts have been reused. Because as you know, these engines, these Conrod bearings are an issue. Most of the people are saying that the biggest issue is because of the width. They're really thin, and actually there is a company which is doing some interesting rebuilds. By that I mean they're installing wider bearings, and they're using some different Conrods and stuff, and it's getting really crazy. But they are claiming when they do this issue with the Conrods, it's not present anymore, because really actually these bearings are really thin, no doubt about it, for an engine like this, and this is why they fail so often. This is the bearings which we're going to use. You're going to say why we have two sets of them. We have standard size and one size which is just a smidge bigger than the standard size. So this is really interesting topic. Let me say a few words about it. So I'm going to use one standard shell and one oversized shell. The standard size is going to be installed on the top, and the oversized shell is going to go underneath. This is going to increase the clearance just a smidge. By smidge I mean it's going to increase it with 0.01, because if you use only oversized bearings on the top and on the bottom, you're going to increase your clearance with 0.025, which is a lot. That is why many people is doing this setup: one standard bearing on the top and one oversized bearing on the bottom. This is increasing the clearance with 0.012. So this is what I'm going to do. That's why I have bought two sets of these bearings. Many people are using these ASL bearings, or I think it's called like this. So let me open it up and show you what we have inside. This H STD is the standard size, and the HX STD is the oversized, which is 0.025 oversized bearing than the stock one. So let's see what we have inside. Most of the people, when they open top of bearings like this, going to say that there are something wrong with them. Actually one has dropped down. Because they are looking kind of strange when you open them up. It's like a worn bearing. Actually I have some damage on one of the shells. I guess somebody have opened up this packaging, and as we can see here, let me show you. I don't know why it was opened. Probably someone have checked it, and this is how it looks like. One is damaged, and it's going to be really hard to return it back. It's not so bad, but still, when you buy new bearings, you expect them to be without any damage on them. So yeah, doesn't matter. Still, I'm going to use 6 of them. I'm not going to use all of them, but I was hoping that I'm going to have one more set of them. So when I need to rechange them once again after 50,000 kilometers, can I mix them? Let me see. This is actually the, yeah, this is a standard size. So we have H here, so I cannot mix them. So let's see, do we have some damage here? Okay, this was in 2 packages, so yeah, here I doubt we're going to have a damage. Probably they put it like that because people are doing the thing that I'm saying, and they are keeping one of the package for the next time, which is kind of cool. If this were like this, it was going to be cool. Here we have X, so I cannot mix them up. Yeah, the coloring is a little bit different actually. You can see this is a little bit more brownish. I'm going to start assembling the Conrods. Yeah, we need to install the pistons with the Conrods because I haven't separated them. And we're going to start measuring what is the exact clearance between the crankshaft journal, Conrod journal, and the bearings. Okay, so I'm going to start with Conrod number 1. We're going to install it in the cylinder block. So on the Conrod, I'm going to install the standard size bearing, and on the cap I'm going to install the oversized bearing, which is this one. So once again, the standard size, the thicker bearing is going to be installed here. So we have a notch, so you cannot mess it up. Okay, like so. Now I'm going to install it in the engine, and after that we're going to install the oversized bearing underneath. Okay, I have cleaned all the cylinders from any debris. Now I'm just going to put some assembly lube before installing the piston in place. I know you can use a regular oil for this, but I prefer this. The Lucas one is really thick, so it stays in place for a really long period of time. I'm going to put some on the piston also. The oil ring is getting out of place really easy. And now the location of the piston rings, I like to do it like that. The top one is placed on one of the side of the skirt, the other one on 180 degrees, and the oil ring I located on the edge here opposite on the second compressor ring, so like this. As we know, while the engine is running, the piston rings are moving also, so most of the time they're going to sit like this only in the beginning, but after that they're going to rotate pretty much. So we have installed the piston on cylinder number 1. Now we're going to continue with the cylinder number 6, because this piston is with a little bit difficult design for installation. I'm using just the screwdriver to hold it like this, so to be able to install the piston bracket, let's say installation bracket. The intake valves are on this side.
А?
Как се плати?
Много по-малко. Само мога да обереш още с това.
Какво се върши? Okay. So it's really tricky to install these pistons because the oil ring is getting out all the time because of the design of the piston, but it's not impossible. As we can see, on a perfect case we're going to have the exact sleeve, which is 87 millimeters. It's going to be much more easier, but probably for the next time I'm going to buy this. Okay, so now I'm going to aim the piston to the crankshaft journal. And this one also. Okay, like that. Okay. So the journals are already degreased. Now I'm going to take the plastic gauge and going to install it to see what is going to be the clearance with this setup of the bearings. So I have cut two pieces of the plastic gauge, and now I'm going to install it. Once again, here should be degreased. And I'm going to install the oversized bearing on the cap, as I told you. This is the HX bearing. Okay, like so. As we saw, I have installed the plastic gauge in place.
Да, да се чупва сега.
Искам да найде по-лаво.
Да чупа.
Да. Okay, so once again I'm going to use the stretch gauge to see where I need to stop to tighten up the bolt. Okay, this is exactly at 0. And this once again is 0.025 longer. So we're going to need to take in mind when torquing them down. I'm going to start torquing them to around 90 Nm and I'm going to start measuring where I'm at. So this is 90. We have increased it with 0.006, so I'm going to continue probably to 100. So I'm going to tighten it to 100 Nm now. So now is 6.5, close to 7, so it's going to require a little bit more. 0.008, so this is in spec. I need to torque down a little bit more this. So I'm going to try with 2 more Nm. Okay, don't move. Let me see. Yeah, we are pretty much at 0.0075, so this should be enough. The both bolts are torqued to spec. Now I'm going to undo them and we're going to see what is the clearance. So it's a little bit hard to see it, but we are at around 0.050. There is some small mark, but it's going to be really hard to see it. Yeah, we are at around 0.050. To check the spec, but the maximum spec was 0.070, which is this one here. I'm going to do the same on the first journal to recheck. Pretty much all of them should be equal. Okay, so I have torqued the cut number 1 on piston number 1, and this is the clearance. Once again, as I told you, on the number 6 is maybe close to 50. Let me see, 60, 63 is way too small. So pretty identical. I'm 90% sure that all of them is going to be like that, but I'm going to check them. So now I'm going to push up the piston down, going to put some assembly loop. I'm going to finally torque these two pistons and going to continue with the rest of them. Okay, so I have tightened up the bolt caps and the final torque spec which we achieved, so to make the stretch of the bolt that the specification wants is roughly 116 Newton meters, and the recommended from ARP was 97, so we are around 19 Newton meters more than recommended. As we saw, they prefer to torque it with stretch gauge, not with torque wrench, so yeah, this is how it goes. So now we're going to continue with the other two pistons. Okay, so Conrod journal number 3 and 4. So let's see where we at. Pretty much they're going to be all the same. So just a smidge bigger than 0.050. It's going to be 0.048, something like this, 45. So yeah, number 4 pretty much once again the same. Just for the sake of filming, I'm going to show you the results on number 2 and number 5. The number 3 and 4 pistons are torqued, the bearings especially. It took 118 Newton meters, pretty much as the other ones. So let me show you. If we measure this bolt, pretty much 0.75 inches of stretchness of the bolt. So much further than the recommended torque spec from the ARP for sure, roughly 20 Newton meters. So yeah, this is why you need a stretch gauge. And as I told you, the last two journals, cylinder number 2 and 5. So how much it is? As expected, pretty much the same, 0.050, 0.050, little bit more than 0.050. Which means it's going to be around 0.040 something. So now I'm just going to show you the spec. I believe it was around between 0.030 to 0.070. Let me check it to be sure, but I believe this was the spec. Okay, I was pretty much right. Conrod bearing clearance from 0.030 to 0.070. So with 0.050 we are dead in the center for sure. And pretty much we are done with the assembly of the Conrod bearings. And yeah, the pistons and all of this. So all the bolts are torqued with a stretch gauge, and now let's do the most satisfying thing of all of this. And actually the loop was enough, little bit extra even left. So I'm going to keep it, and I'm just going to include one quick video about pretty much the same procedure but on a totally different engine. It's AOS from Chevy. I decided to quickly show you one more engine which I'm working on with the ARP bolts for the Conrods especially. This is AOS 3. I believe originally it was installed in Camaro and Corvettes, but doesn't matter. This is AOS 3 engine, and we are using this ARP bolts. In our case, this is not the same as on the S54 which we're going to use. The instructions are saying that if you don't have a stretch gauge, you should torque the bolts to 54 Newton meters. After torquing it to 54 Newton meters, it wasn't enough. The bolt was not stretched enough, and after using 5 more Newton meters, which means 59 Newton meters, right now, let me show you, we started from 0, the bolt was at 0, and right now is exactly 0.0055 inches. The spec is between 0.0055 and 0.006, so we are pretty much in the spec right now. So I needed 5 more Newton meters than the spec that ARP was provided. So once again, this is the most accurate way to do it, but just wanted to show you on a different engine how it goes. Here the difference was only 5 Newton meters. Of course, on different boats it's going to be different. So yeah, as we saw, once again we have some difference between the recommended and the real torque spec which these boats are going to require. I guess that's why you're going to need a tool like this. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but if you're doing engines like this, it's a must, I believe. So okay guys, as usual it's getting late and the video is getting long, and hopefully it was interesting for you to see this process of installation of the pistons, the Conrods, the changing of the bearings, and especially the difference between the ARP procedure and the regular original boats from BMW. Yeah, with them it's much more faster and easier to work, but with the ARP boats it's much more time consuming. Hopefully in the end of the day with those, hopefully it's going to be much more reliable. But as I told you, I don't have any other choice because BMW is not selling brand new boats for this type of Conrods, so I'm going to hope that this is going to work out. And I'm pretty sure that there will be no issues, especially with this clearance, because I think it's perfect. Between 50 and 60, I believe this should be perfect on this engine, so we're pretty close to that. So okay, probably in the next video we're going to continue with the cylinder head, which is already machined and ready to be installed. This is the valves. I'm going to install some aftermarket springs and retainers. So okay guys, hopefully it was interesting. I really took the time for filming this. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.